Hmm. Great morning. Great morning. It is Sunday morning, Easter Monday. Sorry, Easter Sunday. Um, and I'd like to welcome anyone who is awake and watching and tuned in or would like to participate in this morning's live broadcast. My intention, as usual, the structure of the sessions are that I do a little blessing in. Then I give a little background to my journey, my story, and then I introduce a topic. And today's topic will be the Four Realms framework. I'll explain that. And then I would like to open the floor to interactions and questions, and then bless out and then set up the next meeting. So with that said, I'm going to spend a few minutes blessing in by closing my eyes and breathing in and centering and allowing my temple, my mind, my body, emotional realm to connect with the spiritual realm and allow divine flow to take place in and as and through me. And I know this is happening as I'm hearing it coming out as my voice. So in this broadcast, I'm trusting that there is guidance occurring and that my voice is the voice that is being directed by Spirit. So I release any concerns, doubts, worries into the world. And so it is. Amen. Welcome. If you're watching live, please comment so I can see who you are and that you are, and basically interact with you. And your questions are the most important. Whatever you're thinking, feeling, or sensing, that would be great info for me to share more of the content. So this show is called the Greatness Activation Show. Its name may change as it evolves, but for now, I'll just call it the Greatness Activation Show. And you can find out more by going to my website, greatnessactivation.com. And the context for this show is that I'd like to introduce a new paradigm into the personal development world called activation. It is not really new as far as nature goes, but it's new as far as the industry goes. Only a few people are engaged in that process or using that term. I think there's one brother I know, Derek Rydell. I notice he's very activational. And one of my mentors, Michael Beckwith, is also in that genre. And there are a few others. I hope to get to know them and possibly bring them on the show to develop this genre of activation. So what is that? Before I tell you what it is, let me tell you how I found it. My background was I was a software engineer in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s. And around about year 2000, there was another bug, that was threatening to shut down the world's computers, and it was called a Y2K bug. And that was my biggest project that I worked on, and I was able to successfully coordinate a team to fix the bug in the computers that control the bank. And I was so proud of my accomplishments, so was the client, that they wanted to promote me. But just as I was getting promoted, I heard a voice in me, my inner guiding voice said, "Nigel, well done. You have successfully fixed the bug in the mechanical electronic computer. Now it's time for you, Nigel, to fix the bug in the human computer. So, since I love or relish the idea of working with humans, I quit my high-paying consulting position and set up a company called Mastery Unleashed and began to do an investigation to discover what is the bug that is interfering with the human being. And once I found this bug, I would get the next instruction. And lo and behold, within 3 months, I found the bug. And as I keep telling you, every session, I say, I found the bug. It's a 3-letter word. And if you would like to know what it is early, you would have to go ahead and look at previous sessions. But I promise that I will share this bug with you in this session, but later on. So I'd like you to stick around and watch this video or interact with the video. And as you're engaging, the bug will actually come out. The bug lives in language. And what it does, it interferes with the processing of the human mind, known as the human computer, and it reverses it and creates all sorts of dysfunctional programs, which creates the human condition. When the bug is totally removed, then you get what we call superhumans or angels, the perfect beings. It's very difficult to be perfect here on Earth, since the bug is here on Earth and is required to have the human experience. However, to the extent that I'm aware of this bug, which is I call a 3-letter word, which I'll reveal later on, to the extent that you are watching to the end of this video or near the end, I'll reveal it. To the extent that this bug is operating in my mind without awareness, then my mind will start to what I call reverse or operate in the opposite direction of which it was originally intended to do. And as soon as I become aware of this bug and I develop the practices for choosing other ways of thinking and speaking, then my mind starts to operate in its natural mode, and I start discovering or becoming aware of more capabilities that are in my temple. And ultimately, as a human being, I am able to start working miracles. So that's the basis of activation. Activation is about being aware of whatever is causing limitations, concerns, frustration, fear, all these human conditions, and being aware of the source of it, getting to the source, seeing it, noticing it, and either removing it or choosing to take mastery over it so that I can, the power, the latent abilities that are in my temple can now activate, come to life, and I can now start working magic and miracles on the planet. Now, there are many great masters who have done this. From historically, the great master teachers, Jesus, Buddha, there's more, Gandhi, all the great master teachers who have been modeled and people have created religions around their practice. These people are being engaged in this thing. And it usually comes down to the word. And so from the Christian standpoint, it's mentioned in the scriptures, but it's told in stories so that people have either taken it literally or metaphorically. Either way, depending on the way that I'm interpreting these, the virus, actually, the language that's hidden in there will determine how well I am able to implement it in my life and reality. So I've been studying this for 20 years now. So yes, in 2000, I quit my job, and now it's 2020. We're actually in the middle of a pandemic virus, which is called the coronavirus, and it behaves in a very similar way to the one here, except it affects the body. And the body, when it's infected without being aware, it starts to malfunction. The breathing, etc., starts to malfunction, and we get a thing called sickness, which is another human condition. So my mission is to activate and unleash the greatness in people. And the way that I do that is through awareness of this virus, and then from the awareness, literally removing it. And as I'm removing the virus, more capability of mentally, physically, and emotionally becomes available, and I can perform more and more miracles. Now, at the moment, the way my business is set up, if you go to greatnessactivation.com, I actually transfer this methodology to individuals who are working with people. So if you're a coach, leader, entrepreneur, anything where your performance relies on the greater performance of others, or you're a minister or a teacher where your intention is to have the audience perform better, then this methodology that I'm talking about, I call it the Mastery Performance Activation Methodology, will be very useful. So go to greatnessactivation.com, and it will make, you can schedule a complimentary session, and we can go into it in your specific calling, application, business, etc. So in today's presentation, my intention is to share a framework. It's called the 4 Realms Framework, and it is a way of looking at the human being from a holistic point of view, and then seeing how things connect and how they work together. And when I am engaged in activating with a client or another being, I can use this framework like a lens to see what's going on in the temple of that person. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen with you and take you through the 4 Realms framework that I use to engage in much of my activational activities. So let me just share my screen here and enlarge it, I think. No, let's try this again. Here we go. So yes, so it starts with a view. Let me see if you better to have a view of the temple. And what do I mean by the temple? The temple is made up of 4 realms: the mental realm, the physical realm, the emotional realm, and the spiritual realm. And in this presentation, I'm going to introduce the realms in the order that I think I become aware of it as a human being coming into the world. When a baby is born, the baby is basically engaged in a journey of awareness. And so I come out the womb, and I'm that baby now, and I may or may not be aware, but my mind is where the awareness is occurring. And the mental realm is like the central realm, is where all the processing from all the other realms congeal or meet. And that is where I can determine my life experience and my life journey, etc. So that's where also the bug lives. But the central processor, or the computer that controls or dominates this realm, is called the mind. And that's a whole nother topic, the mind, which is conscious mind, subconscious mind, etc. But suffice to say, there's a realm called the mental realm. And that is where where awareness is taking place. And so the first thing I may become aware of is I'm having feelings. So I'm like, ooh, I'm sad, I'm crying, I'm happy. So a lot of people, because of this experience of having feelings being the first level of awareness, people think they're actually driven by feelings. I think that the feelings are there. It's just it's a sensible way of becoming aware. Become aware of emotions first. And then the next thing I seem to become aware of is what I call my senses, that there's stuff coming in from my eyes. And I might notice my guardians and the people around me. I might notice it feels warmer, it feels cold. And there's some relationship between what's coming in through my 5 senses, taste, smell, touch, sight, hearing, and how I feel. I've may, in this level, at this level of awareness, I may have not I've yet to bring the two together. There's something to do with the sensual apparatus and my emotional apparatus, but that will change as I become more aware. Now, again, once I'm going to sort of take a little commercial break and say, let me just say this. As you're watching this presentation that I'm demonstrating, this framework, you might be thinking, I don't agree, I disagree, I agree, and I'd love that. So I'd love to hear, can you please type in something, what you're thinking or feeling into the chat about as it's occurring, because that will help to demonstrate the principles that I am speaking about. So no passive viewing, active viewing. It's an activational show. Okay, meanwhile, back in the jungle. Yes. So, as I was saying before, I become aware of my feelings, and then I'm becoming aware of the sensations coming in, and there's some relation between the two. What I see can make me smile, what I smell can make me happy, what I feel can make me laugh. Ooh, there's a lot of stuff happening here. So then what happens next, Nigel? What happens next is I become even more aware. And I become aware that I have emotions, that there's a set of emotions that are governing my world. And at this point, I may have acquired language. I may have like, oh, I feel happy, I feel sad, how are you feeling today? So people ask me how I'm feeling, and then I access my emotional realm and communicate about the feelings. Now, in the meantime, my sensual apparatus is in full-blown mode. Not only am I seeing, feeling, tasting, I'm engaging with the world through my five senses. So I'm thinking that stuff is coming into me and there's stuff happening within me. So I see stuff outside and I feel stuff within me. So what happens next, Nigel? As I'm maturing, I realize that these senses, this sensual stuff, is coming through my body. My eyes are part of my body. My ears are my body. This is all physical sensations. So my vocabulary becomes better now because I'm like, I am having sensations. I am not my sensations. I'm just having them. And who I am is also in question, but I know that I'm aware that they're coming through my temple. Because if something happens to my eyes, I no longer see. Something happens to my sensing apparatus, my spine, I can cut off feelings, etc. Sensations are a function of my physical body, and they can be turned on and off. That's interesting. So I become more curious about how I work. Then this strange thing starts to occur. I start noticing that the actual emotions that I'm having is a result of my actual motion. The motion of my body is creating the emotions. So now I can see that there's an emotion happening. So I might move, like I might go for a walk, and as I'm walking, I feel differently. Or something hits my body, that motion causes another sensation. So there's this direction flow going on from physical body to physical realm to emotional realm to mental realm. So then the question is, well, what's driving my physical realm? Then as I mature in my awareness, I start to notice that there's this thing called an intention that I don't just accidentally have motion. I actually am having intention to have motion. And those intentions are formed in my mind way before I take the action. And so this is where planning and intention and contemplation happens. I can think about my motion before they occur. I can have a vision of me walking before I start walking. And So that's how babies actually learn to walk. They see adults walking through their central apparatus, and they're like, I intend to do that one day. And lo and behold, they start sending an intention to the body to walk, and the legs start to move. And when they start moving, woo, this is fun. And as the body's moving, the emotions drive it. And we call that passion. The more that I generate motion and emotion, it becomes passion, and it creates this feeling. And if the feeling is happiness and joy, which usually it is when I'm moving my body and my body's able to function well, the mind says, did you like that? Yeah. And it sends the intention again. And so we call that practice, where I think something, I set an intention, the intention turns into action, action turns into emotions, emotions send a signal, that was fun, and it goes round and round again. And so without any intervention, this habit or this cycle of thought, motion, emotion, thought, motion, emotion becomes a cycle, and it's known as a habit. It's an addiction, and it's beautiful, and it's the way that human beings learn behavior. And the central apparatus is also giving feedback, and that's usually to direct it's like, okay, where do we want to go? Let's see over there. And we use the central apparatus to set direction, and then we set an intention. Let's go over there. And then as we're moving, it's giving us feedback. So that's why the central arrows, the senses, move in the opposite direction of the intention, because it's giving feedback. It's a beautiful system. I'm like, who created this? I must talk to the creator of this system, which I do frequently. So now, this is called the human condition, and animals have the same thing. And in fact, it's the animal nature. There's something missing, Nigel. I thought you said there were 4 realms. Yes, I did. There's 4 realms. There are 4 realms. And usually, depending on my level of awareness, I may become more aware of this 4th realm. And it may start occurring to me as this thing called intuition. Let me expand this so that my viewers can see it clearer. So now I'm starting to break out of my animal nature. I'm starting to having these insights or information. Like in my case, I was, doing my mechanical consulting job in IT, and then I had this inner voice, intuition, that told me to stop doing what I'm doing and go and do something else, which is more in alignment with my life purpose. I'm thinking, this is interesting. I'm going to trust this intuitive internal tutor voice, and I'm going to see what happens when I follow that voice. So let me just pause for a minute as I'm going to tell you what happened and what this 4th realm is, and what happens when I allow my mental realm to be directed by this 4th realm. But before I tell you that, let me just remind Yes, you can learn more by going to greatnessactivation.com and scheduling a complimentary session so that it becomes more than theory and becomes a practice that can be applied in whatever intentions or endeavor the master has in mind. Just go to greatnessactivation.com. You'll see some options, and just pick one that says complimentary session, and then we can go from there. Meanwhile, back in the story, I was mentioning that the animal nature is when there is just thought causing action, action causing emotion, emotion leads to feelings, and it goes around in this loop. Yeah, just looping around. Actually, let me do it. Yeah, it's looping around in that direction. It's reversed where I am looking on my screen here. Anyway, and then there's this other entity an internal source of information called intuition. And the intuition is sending information to my mind. And it may be contrary to some of the information that's coming in through my five senses, such as what I was taught. And most of the time, what I found is that my inner voice that's talking to my mind is different or disagrees with the outer voice of my environment. And I can find myself having a debate between, should I listen to myself or should I listen to the advice that's coming in through especially my ears? And later on, I discovered that the information coming in through my ears is actually virus infected and is causing the pollution in my mental realm. And yet the information coming from my inner realm is actually pure, and it's like a fountain, and it's like a well that's constantly broadcasting to my mind. However, depending on how much distraction there is from the senses and the emotions may determine whether I can hear this inner voice or not. So where is this voice coming from, Nigel? What's this? Who's talking to me? Turns out that this intuition is like a connection to another realm called the spiritual realm. And the spiritual realm, as everyone knows, and if you don't, go to greatnessactivation.com, is the realm where source is, or whatever, whoever created us, whatever is driving us, the spirit, others call it God, etc., is talking to the mind through the intuition. Now, I'd like to introduce a practice, a sample practice, and it's called thinking. Most people think that thinking is, actually most people don't know what thinking is. In fact, I'm going to ask you in the chat, who can tell me a definition for thinking? If you're there, just type in, what do you think that thinking is? Like if you were to explain it to one of your clients or your student or somebody, what is your definition of thinking? Okay, I'll wait. I see everyone's thinking. And but whether you're looking at the replay or the live, type in whatever you think thinking is, and then I'm going to share what I think it is. Okay? Here's what thinking is. Thinking is the process of connecting the mental realm to the spiritual realm. Literally, I'm connecting my mental realm to the spiritual realm. So when I'm thinking, what I'm really doing is it's the equivalent of the computer. I have a Mac right here, and this is how generally computers work. It has an onboard processor called the mind, or the mental processor that's on the computer itself. And it controls the hardware, the keyboard, the screen, etc., which is the physical realm. And computers don't have an emotional realm as far as I'm aware, but there may be some artificial intelligence now that makes them feel things, but they can definitely see things, and they have sensor apparatus. Now, what is the equivalent of the spiritual realm? It's the internet. So when your computer wants to think, when you ask it a question, like you do a search, it goes, let me think, and it goes and connects itself to the internet where all knowledge lives, Google, Facebook, etc. And it goes and gets that information and brings it back into memory and then puts it on the screen, which is the voice, and it tells you, this is what I think. Well, it's the same for the human being. The human mind, which is in the mental realm, connects to the spiritual realm, otherwise known as the internet of things. The spiritual realm is the equivalent to the internet, and it says, let me ask the source, and it brings it back and puts it out through the voice or through an action. Voice plus action equals result. So, by the way, where it says motion, it should be speech and motion. So I'm going to correct that in the slides. And so now this realm, the spiritual realm, is the source of all knowledge. It is actually where I go to learn. This is where I got this information. Unfortunately, the world has been taught that information comes through the five senses. And when information comes from the five senses, then I can be what I call brain programming. I'm being programmed. And usually when the data coming in through the five senses is infected with virus, then the effect is that it starts to limit my mind and keeps it in malfunctioning state. Now, what I recommend as a practice, and we do that at greatnessactivation.com, is to regularly refresh the mind, renew the mind by connecting it to the spiritual realm, the internet, and downloading a fresh version of the operating system. That way, we can just renew the mind and reactivate its greatness, and magic starts happening again. Now, some people only do that. I've never done that. So they're working on an operating system that's polluted. The mental realm is polluted with all sorts of junk from the past, and by now it's like overloaded with. There's just it's time to do a clear. And the good news, when I clear my mind, I become like a child again. And the good news is that the spiritual realm is just always broadcasting, and there's no limit on the bandwidth that I can download from my spiritual realm into my mental realm. And to the degree that I keep my mind clear, my hard disk clear and available for downloads, it will just pour through me like a channel, a broad 5G, now we'll just call it 20G channel. And that's what makes humans great. That's how it's possible to activate the greatness in people, because the source can connect directly to the mind. It has been said that the mind we're only using 10% of our minds. The mind has enough memory and processing power to handle whatever the spirit can deliver. Usually it's not the spirit that's limited, it's the mind's capacity to receive it, or to channel it is a better word, because there is no receiving, we're just passing the information through. So that's a sort of intro to the four realms. It's a very powerful framework. It allows me to look at a human being and I can say, okay, how are you feeling? What emotions are going on here? And within the emotional realm, we have the manual. The emotional realm is said to be the dashboard of the temple. Depending on what is going on, I can tell what is affecting the human being, which emotions causing what effect, and how that's interacting with the mental realm. And then depending on how infected the mental realm is, how it's causing the body to behave, etc. So this is a powerful framework which I'd love to share and explain further in an activational session, or in an activational session live on the show. So I think that's it. I will be talking more about this framework, using it in future sessions. Now, with regard to the virus word, I'm going to type it in the chat here again. The virus, the root virus. This word, it mutates. It infects other words, and it multiplies just like any other viral entity. Where's my equal sign? Yes, there it is. Is the word N-O-T. There you go. So with that, I will stop here. Thanks for watching this video, or for sharing it with others. If you're watching on YouTube, please press the the subscribe button. If you're listening on a podcast, please share it, download it, and share it with friends. If you're watching on Facebook, please comment and engage. And your comments will be a blessing to others. Every thought that's coming through you is actually a gift for the world. And the worst thing, one of the things I'd like to end is the practice of taking in information. Like this session is intended to activate the human to put out information. We're transmitting beings rather than consuming beings. So I will be talking about that in another broadcast, and I look forward to sharing more with my fellow great ones. To the extent that you identify as a oddball, meaning your intuitive voice disagrees with the incoming, then you're at odds, which is great. It means that your intuition voice is very strong. You have a strong purpose. To the extent that you're a leader, if there are people following you and you'd like them to be great leaders rather than great followers, then this work is for you. To the extent that you're a messenger and you are called to deliver change to the world or to other beings, then this is a great practice. To the extent that you're what I call my favorite people, the change angel, meaning you were born odd, born with a mission, born to change the world, born to do great things in this world, then this program, this offering, go to Greatness Activation and schedule something, an appointment or a complimentary session, or just join the movement. Whatever works for you. I look forward to connecting with you. So with that said, I'm going to bless out now and then bid you adieu. So I'm so grateful that I am gifted this opportunity to share my downloads, my insights, my intuition with the world. I'm so grateful for all those who are hearing my voice this day. I'm so grateful for the messages that are coming through me. I'm so grateful for all those who are messengers, those who are guided, those who are connected to their source. I'm so grateful for the new heaven on earth that is being created, that is manifesting now. I'm so grateful for those master teachers who have gone before me and will be here after me. I'm grateful for their spirit. I'm grateful that it is possible to tap in and tune in to these beings and allow them to speak through and as me. I give thanks and release my words into this ecosystem known as life. And so it is. Amen. Okay, bye.